Can I start?
Yes, go ahead, start.
Good morning. My name is Mariana Guerrero. Teen driving. As teens mature and develop, an important part of their path to young adulthood is earning their driver's license. However, there are many issues coming up surrounding teens' technology usage and how it affects their driving behaviors. So, to what extent does mobile technology affect the driving behaviors of adolescents in the United States in the 21st century? Mobile technology has negatively impacted the behavior of adolescent drivers by causing distracted driving via an overuse of technology and an observation of poor cell phone use when driving. As seen on the chart, there are a multitude of factors that lead to teens using their cell phones when driving. It's a combination of the attitudes, the perceived control of driving, and cell phone use, where they think that they're able to multitask and they can have partial focus on the road and on their cell phone and still manage to drive safely. And the subjective norms about cell phone use when driving, where it may be a combination of peer pressure or just wanting to show off or show, again, a perceived control about cell phone use when driving, where they want to show an experience that they don't have since they're relatively new drivers. Contributing to an increase in cell phone use when driving is an increase in cell phone usage and ownership in teens and preteens. For example, in 2004, only 18% of 12-year-olds, which are preteens, owned a mobile phone, and yet only 5 years later, there's a 40% increase where the ownership of mobile phones in 12-year-olds was up to 58%, showing that teens are growing up with this comfortability and familiarity with technology and cell phones specifically. So they're more reluctant to put it down when driving because they're so accustomed to always using it and always just being on their phone. Which ties into the next quote, where a study done by the Pew Research Center shows that 45% of the teen respondents said that they had texted while they drove, and 52% of cell phone-owning teens ages 16 to 17 confessed to talking on a phone while driving. And using their cell phone when driving obviously causes distracted driving since their focus is taken off the road and put onto their cell phone, which can lead to a multitude of consequences such as accidents, fatalities, and other injuries related to cell phone distracted driving. As you can see on the chart, if you look to the first larger circle, the majority of teen deaths are caused by unintentional injury, 48% to be exact. And of that 48%, 73% is caused by motor vehicle traffic accidents. And whether or not it is caused by distracted driving, it is definitely made more risky and made more dangerous by the use of cell phones when driving. A study done, or a report done by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in 2017 showed that anywhere from 200 to 300 people died in 2017 due to teen distracted driving, whether they were the driver or just somehow involved in the accident, showing the damages and just the consequences that teen distracted driving can have on not only themselves, but other people around them. Overall, there are three main types of distracted driving. There's visual, where their eyes are taken off the road; manual, where their hands are taken off the steering wheel; and cognitive, where their mind and their focus is off the road. And all three of these are definitely effects of cell phone distracted driving, because when they're looking at their phone, they are not looking at the road. When their hands are on their phone, their hands are not on the steering wheel. And when they're thinking of what to text back or who to call, what numbers to punch in, they're not thinking about pedestrians is at a stop sign. They're not thinking about what's on the road and not putting their focus on where it matters. And since they are such new drivers, they don't have the experience to be able to multitask or to partially focus on the road and on their cell phone at the same time. And it's due to this inexperience and this new driver status that they focus on the drivers around them, their parents. And whether they realize it or not, they're looking at their parents and how they drive and how they use technology while driving. And so some parents are aware of that, and so they educate their teens and they restrict their cell phone use when driving, and they tell them not to use their cell phones when driving. They tell them to use safety belts and just other safety precautions. Yet if parents themselves don't set the example and parents don't practice what they preach to their teens, it won't be as effective. And parents need to realize that they must model the proper behavior when driving. And also, it's their job to keep their teens safe. So if their teen is not following the rules that they outlined, they have the power and the ability to take that technology away in order to teach their teens proper driving. And even though technology can be distracting, it can also help teens focus when driving. There are a multitude of different types of technology that can improve adolescents' focus when driving and prevent poor driving habits. And examples are monitoring and feedback devices and blocking modes and apps. For example, in 2016, TJ Everts made this smart wheel. It's a mini sheath that goes over the driving wheel, and he debuted it on Shark Tank. And it monitors the movement of a driver's hands, whether they take their hands off the wheel, where they put it back on, how long their hands were off the wheel, just a multitude of just their movements. And it sends it to their phone so that they can see their statistics and see how susceptible they are to cell phone use when driving, because if their hands are not on the wheel, their hands are able to grab or reach for a cell phone or another device. Another example is a mode that Apple phones have, which is Do Not Disturb, where if the phone sees or detects that a user is driving, it will turn off all notifications, including calls and text messages, social media notifications. And the only way to bypass this is to text urgent in all capital letters in order to relay some sort of emergency or some important message, but it blocks every other notification. And with these technological solutions, while they may help teens focus, they are ultimately short-term solutions and ignore a greater issue of a dependence and a attraction to technology by teens. Teens need to realize that they themselves have to be in control at all times when driving. They need to have self-discipline, and they need to stop themselves from using technology, and they can't rely on technology because of glitches. There can be, if battery dies, you can manually override almost everything. So teens need to just focus on themselves and know that they must control themselves. So overall, the solution to this would be to completely bar the use of technology when driving, or to just really limit technology use. But more realistically, teens should use self-discipline and self-regulate their technology use when driving and also when not driving, to create a habit of being able to put their phone down and to focus on something else entirely without the distraction of cell phones. Another solution would be to teach proper technology use to younger students, mostly middle schoolers. In elementary school, they teach, using the program Super Kids, they teach driving under the influence dangers, talking about marijuana, alcohol, and cigarettes. Yet they don't teach about driving distracted and using their cell phones when driving. So to add programs like that in schools, maybe make websites, and to appeal to younger kids to use games, maybe trivia, but just to overall educate on this issue in order to cultivate a new generation of drivers that are able to control themselves and know proper driving etiquette. Thank you. What questions do you have?
All right, I do have two questions for you. First question, was there information that you wanted to gather, that you did gather that you didn't use, and then why didn't you use it?
So information that I gathered was that music is really distracting when it comes to driving. That actually within different volumes of music, less distracting, but it overall is distracting when driving for teens. And I didn't include it because it just wasn't as strong as my other points. And it was really repetitive with saying that just music caused driving. And no matter the volume, no matter even if it was deemed safe driving, it was just ultimately distracted driving. And there was no limits. It was just always distracting. It wasn't as strong as my other points.
All right. And if you had more time, what additional research would you have done?
If I had more time, I dove into the psychological aspects of teen distracted driving and why teens are so susceptible mentally to driving distracted due to maybe it's because they're so young, maybe it's because it's a stage in their life, but I would like to personally know why it's teens that are most susceptible.
All right.